Who's an idiot?
It's you, Tanya.
I'm the idiot. Did we just really record 37 minutes of podcast and I wasn't really recording myself?
I think we need to launch the monologue that I did then because you recorded me.
I already deleted it. If I have to do it again, you have to do it again. I'm so sorry.
Anyways, well, let's start over.
Pop culture. Spilling the plenty.
So, Tanya, how have you been?
I've been well, thank you.
It's been 4 weeks since we last recorded. You have been a bit ill.
Yes. Apparently that fried some of my brain cells. You wouldn't think this is our second season, right? It's like total beginners. Unbelievable.
Oh, God. This is embarrassing.
No, it's not embarrassing. We can edit everything out and make it all look nice.
But you will not do that, will you?
I will not.
That's what I thought.
You get us raw, you get us fresh, you get us
Yeah.
uncut.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the second episode of season 2.
Oh,
It's Jos and it's Tanya.
sounds
And-
official. Season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
baby.
back in the US, getting ready to freeze my bum off this weekend because we have this big snowstorm announced. By the time you listen to this episode, I guess that will have already passed, hopefully, and everybody survived and kept warm. But we're going to have some news and talk a little bit chit-chat. What? We're going to have some news and we'll talk about our plans for this year. I also have a little confession to make to Jos.
Excuse me.
And we'll have our second part of the interview with Tom.
All right.
And then Jos is going to give it to me, like always, with his weird plants. Take it from the top.
Spilling the plenty.
So we have some latest news that's a bit sad. Of course, by now the news is already a bit older, or by the time this has been aired. A name that does not ring too many bells with me, but a lot with people that collect orchids, is Paul Gripp. He is, or was, a really important name in the orchid growers and collectors world. So he sadly passed away at 93 years old. He was what a lot of people consider one of the last great orchid explorers. People of his generation are sadly passing away. He was born in Los Angeles in 1932, and he first encountered orchids where he grew up that grew there in the wild. And it actually made him study horticulture at the Santa Monica College and UCLA. And that's also why he started working at the Santa Barbara Orchid Estates in 1957, where he worked for another big name in the orchid collecting world, Robert Chrisman. After Robert Chrisman passed away in 1967, he purchased the nursery from him and he became the owner and the manager. Under his guidance, the orchid estates actually became globally recognized as a orchid nursery, known for their species, but also for hardy outdoor varieties, which was actually a specialty of Paul Gripp. So he was a famous cultivar selector, hybridizer. He created many prize award-winning orchids, and his most famous one is called Santa Barbara Sunset. So he mainly focused on orchids that could grow outdoors in Los Angeles or the south of USA area. But he was also an explorer and an educator. So in his life, he traveled extensively to the Philippines, Myanmar, India, Mexico, everywhere orchids grow. And he collected them. But he was also a very renowned speaker and author. He was known for making orchid knowledge accessible and entertaining to other people. He used a lot of anecdotes when he spoke. I think we could compare him a bit to the likes of Tom Croat or Joep Monen in the Aroid community. He inspired generations of growers and collectors. I bet he still does. And for now, the Santa Barbara Orchid Estate is being run by his children, Alice and Paul Gripp. So the next generation is ready to take over his legacy. They have been for the last years, of course, but he's still at the ripe age of 93, was a very frequent visitor of the nursery, still helping and sharing his passion for orchids. I think one of his quotes, or he's remembered for saying that he loves every orchid equally. And I think that is beautiful.
That is beautiful. First of all, condolences to his family and friends. It's one thing for the plant community to lose an influential personality, but I think it's worse for the family and friends. Kudos to his family for continuing the nursery. I think in such a large family, plant family, it's always good to have people carry on that spirit and the passion. But 93 is I think it's a good age to look back on your life's work and
Yeah, I
bow
agree.
out gracefully, right?
I agree.
Okay, so let's move on to something a bit more lighthearted. I was on Reddit and I came across this.
You're
It's weird
addicted to
saying this
Reddit.
again. It's weird repeating this because obviously we already found a conclusion to it. But I brought a question to Jos. There was in the subreddit Rare Plants, there was a person asking about whether or not there are any people in that subreddit anymore that actually collect rare plants. And if you know us, we don't really like the term rare plants because what is rare to me is not going to be rare to someone in Thailand or whatever. Um, but actually, let me read the post to you. That would be easier than me trying to
Yes.
describe what he was asking. Why does the rare houseplant subreddit mostly involve common houseplants? It seems that you guys mostly deal in common houseplants like monsteras or begonias with noteworthy variations that may make them look sickly. Is there a place that deals in rarer houseplants? I'd be very curious to see people trying to grow stuff like ghost pipe, mimosa pudica, or ice cream beans indoors in tissue culture. So my question was maybe for these types of plants that this person is referring to, like the more common ones, monsteras, begonias, etc., with variations that clearly come out of tissue culture, maybe we need a new term for that. And I'll leave it up to you, Jos, to educate me again.
Yeah, but the thing is, like when I told you previously, you were really surprised by the preciseness and intelligence of the answer. So I think you need to fake that when I do it.
Okay, do it.
I think we already have a tone for that, and that's collector's plants.
Oh my God, you're so right. That like perfectly encapsulates, like, yeah.
I know,
Why
I
didn't I
know.
think of that earlier?
Yes, that's weird. Yeah, I think it's just, you know, I even lost my train of thought now.
Choo choo.
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. Previously, I said a lot of good things about that, and I don't
I know.
remember.
I know.
You
Too
you
bad I
talk a,
deleted it.
you talk a bit. I'm gonna
Okay.
pitch
Yeah.
on that.
Well, to wrap it up, oh, I remember what we talked about. I was going to suggest that we open up a new subreddit called Collector's Plants. And then you laughed at me because my thoughts are not that original today.
Yeah, there must be a million subreddits with every possible subject there is. So
Okay, that's
but
fine. Maybe Reddit is not the
you
place
never
for me.
know. No, it's never too late, Tanya. You can join. It's for
Hmm,
it's
fine.
for boomers too.
For boomers. I'm Generation X. God.
Uh,
Go on, your turn.
yes. Well, I have some short news updates, whatever you want to call it. I think by now it's still fresh and hot off the press, but you know, news travels fast. Anyways, I came across a post on Facebook where a person who bought a new plant from Home Depot showed their plants. Home Depot, that's like a big retail store in America. I mean, it's a name that I know, but like I don't know exactly what they sell there.
Home Depot is like a home improvement DIY store where
Ah,
you
okay.
can get wood and tools and all that stuff. But they also have garden centers.
Yeah. So they usually sell plants, right? Anyways, they showed a plant with the name Monstera Gilded Glory. I never heard of that name. It's also trademarked, so it's a trademark name. In the responses, I could quickly find that the plant they are talking about is Monstera lechleriana, but a variegated one. So like it had some cream or whitish variegation.
I have an elbow variegated one. I think it's like
I think it's the same.
3 years old.
Yeah.
In my collection.
But so anyway, it's being trademarked as Monstera Gilded Glory. And I think that's nice. I like the name.
I think if it's called gilded whatever, it should be a yellow variegation, but that's just me.
But
And the
what
other
does
thing,
what does gild mean?
gild?
Yeah,
I
gilded.
don't know. To me, it sounds like gold.
Okay.
If something is
Sounds
gilded,
like
it's gold.
something Gelori.
All right, I'm gonna have to look it up.
Gilded, like
Gilded.
Gilded H, yeah. Is it like decorated?
Wait,
Or is it
let's
like
do some
plated?
education here. Gilded with a U is often misspelling of gilded, meaning covered in gold or appearing rich but potentially superficial.
That's not a good name. But it's not with a U, it's Gilded.
Gilded. Yeah.
So it's covered with gold. But
Yeah,
like,
I just
so
I
it's like,
spelled it wrong
so
while
it's
I
like
was searching for the meaning, so it told me that I misspelled it, but it's covered in gold or appearing rich but potentially superficial.
So it's like the White House at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, those decorations are also from Home Depot. Legend says.
Legend says.
Or allegedly, whatever.
Or team you. So anyway, if you come across the name, it's Monstera lechleriana. For the collectors out there, I think they prefer the Latin names when collecting plants. But I think for people that just like houseplants are not collectors, it's a nice name.
And give that baby something to climb. Trust me.
They are climbers, but they are marketed that way because it's easier, I guess.
Not putting something that wants to climb on a pole is like having a fish and not giving it water to swim.
I think we should, have an interview with Jan, who's a specialist, the Sydney plant guy.
Oh, yeah. Jan, if you ever listen to this.
I think he's one of the 28.
Probably.
We love you, our first 28 followers.
Where do you get that number from?
From the Spotify thingy?
Well, that is going to go away anyway because we're
That's
moving
true.
away from Spotify. So we have reasons. But yeah.
And
Anything else?
How do we get the 28 to go to the new platform?
I will record a hypnotic note on Spotify and I'll be like, you will have this urge to open up Substack and look for prop
with
culture.
essential voice. You have been told you have a sensual voice.
The voice I just had was not sensual. It was mind-bending. No. Jesus, we're rambling. Let's move on to the next topic.
I think you have some news about betraying me.
Betraying you sounds so evil.
But yeah, it is what it is.
You
went behind my back. You were like, this is what I've done now. Deal with it. Like, no partnership here. Here you go.
Well, that's not really how it happened. You just didn't think I would actually pull the trigger, right?
I thought we said we weren't going to do it, but then just tell the people what you did.
Okay, so pre-approved vendors for the IAS Tropical Plant Expo were informed that booths were up for sale. And arguably, I was a little bit jet lagged coming back to the US. And I thought, if we're going to go, we need to get a good booth. So I went ahead and bought a booth for this year's IAS Expo. I got booth number A7, which is like super central. I'm going to love it. We're going to be the only stand that doesn't sell plants. And I'm going to have a cardboard cutout version of Jos with me
Yes.
because he refuses to travel to the US, which
I
I
mean,
understand.
yeah, can you blame me?
No, not at all. But yeah, we're going to have to think about what we actually do there as a vendor because prop culture isn't our only product, if you will. Obviously, we've shared about plant provenance, and we have gifts for plant people in the making, which by then will hopefully be the go-to store for plant-related gifts or gifts for plant collectors. And we will have another product up and running by then, which is called Plant My Event. And potentially we'll be in the middle of the development of our houseplant index. So there's going to be a lot to show. And people will learn that we are dead serious about revolutionizing.
I think all American style, we should have some merch so people will be like
Well, yeah, the merch will be our own product.
flocking to your stand because you give them free merch and then they're
Yeah, that's going to be the merch that people could potentially buy off of gifts for plant people, right?
okay. So no freebies. Okay, I
Oh,
get it.
there's going to be freebies, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll do stickers and stuff. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, now my reaction is less overwhelming than the first recording, of course, but I still feel betrayed. Yeah.
Oh, I'll make it up to you.
Okay. So, anyways, I think we're almost at the point where you realize that you were not recording.
Yeah.
But I do have one more thing before we go to the second part of the interview with Dr. Tom Croat.
Mhm.
It was a post that I read in a Facebook group that I'm in. I use that sentence a lot when recording. The Facebook group is called Alocasia Enthusiasts, and it was posted on January 8th by Alice and Steve Rossen. And they posted something with the title Confessions of a Leaf Dealer, and I found that already very intriguing. So I started reading and I giggled out loud on reading. And they stated the difference between buying plants or selling plants to them, their experience. And so they said, me buying plants, it's basically a drug deal, but for plants. Meeting strangers in car parks, no eye contact, no chit chat, just cash for plants. And then I drive off just like I scored illegal lettuce. Me selling plants? Here's my address, come on in, talk about humidity, light. So basically a TED Talk with leaves. Full guided tour, basically running a plant Airbnb.
So funny.
Super funny. But also like the first part was totally unrecognizable to me. Like I, I don't think that is happening in Europe where people meet in car parks to sell plants.
Oh, I've
Like,
done that. I've done
really?
that. Yeah, I stopped in Frankfurt for my first Queen Anthurium. I even had my baby in the back of the car. The seller came running out of her house and basically popped the plant into my trunk, and I handed over 200 euros and I drove off. Yeah, it's happened. It's happened.
So you do recognize.
It's American. It's an American thing there.
Anyways, I wanted to broaden it a bit into our experience with buying collector's plants in 2026.
Mhm.
Of course, I think our experience might be very European centered. Maybe you can add a bit of experience from the US. I don't know how much you are aware of it. What we know, or at least what I know, the main methods of buying plants in 2026 are either the live stream apps like Instagram or Palm Street. And I think that's gaining in popularity a lot. But then you still have, I think, more established ways of purchasing in Facebook groups. And of course, some online stores persist. I think the big players have emerged, but they have also broadened their stash of plants, more common plants, not only collector's plants. There are still some shops that only do collector's plants, but they are getting less and less every year. And then still some physical shops that are very local and plant fairs, even though they are also fewer and fewer in my experience.
At least I
I
haven't seen them advertised as much. I mean, over here you have fairly a lot of shows where houseplants are or not shows, more like farmers markets and indoor markets where plants are present. And you have the PlantCon. I think this year they have 6 shows in the US. And there's the Southeast Plant Show. There's a bunch of shows in California. So, but those are like smaller scale,
Mm.
or the majority of them are rather smaller. Like the one that I want to visit on the weekend, I want to go to this orchid show in Hyannis. Hyannis is on Cape Cod, and so it is small, right? But it's in a convention center, I think. Don't nail me down on the name, but it's in a hotel convention center. I'm really curious to see how big that's going to be and if it's even going to happen with a snowstorm. But yeah,
But like that's a question I pose myself also in relation to what we are trying to do with horticulture. Like in my experience, there are a lot of hurdles when it comes to plant collecting for getting plants because it's not centralized. There's a lot of difficulties in getting plants, a lot of possible problems or hazards. So in my opinion, it would be really interesting for horticulture to be a facilitator in that. But I'm raising the question, like, isn't the difficulty of it also part of the excitement and the
the
game of plant
thrill,
collecting?
yeah, the thrill. You know what? I haven't really bought a lot of plants this past year. I probably stopped buying every other week back in mid 2024 just because of the sheer volume of plants that I had. And it was more about, selling or gifting them, sending them off for free, just for postage, whatever. But I would say that we've gone away from that sheer amount of private sellers that were clogging up sounds weird, Craigslist and eBay and all those platforms. I mean, of course, in Europe, you have the issue that, like, I've just seen it in a German group. Somebody's shop on eBay eBay has a marketplace in Germany, specifically for private sellers. And these platforms, we've spoken about this in the past, now have the duty to report certain accounts if they cross certain thresholds, because they might actually be venturing from private sales into a trade space, or commercial space rather. So overall, and I think the other issue, which just reminded me when you said specialized collectors, plant sellers, I have heard on multiple occasions that many of those who built up a really good reputation during the plant boom, or the plant craze, whatever you want to call it, the aroid craze, aroid bubble, as they are widening their product base in terms of how many species they sell and even the genera, etc., the quality has dropped in terms of, selling plants that are wrongly identified, things like that. So it's definitely interesting to see how, on one hand, diehard collectors are navigating this new landscape of buying and selling, but also how regular consumers, people who just like houseplants, how they have more access to more special plants, to see how that goes.
Well, are there more special plants or are just the plants that used to be special now
More available.
common,
Yeah.
more available?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
it's
think it's I think it's both. Yeah, it's both. All right. I think we are ready for the next part of the interview.
I'm ready to hear the second part of our interview with Tom. Again, I apologize for the audio quality. We really tried to get the best out of it. Let's do the second part of the interview with Dr. Tom Croat, and afterwards we'll be back with our closing segment. Enjoy the interview.
I work with Anthurium and I mostly create hybrid plants because I love the idea of creating hybrids and I love the outcome of it. But I also was taught in school in biology that species are not supposed to create hybrids. That's one of the parts of the definitions of a species, and I know that's not like a hard definition. But what I like to know is what parameters do you use to determine whether an Anthurium is a new species or either a subspecies or a variant or an ecotype? Because to me, that's not always clear. Like plants can look a lot like each other, but then have a different color of inflorescence, for instance. Like what parameters do you use to determine this is now a new species?
Well, this is, of course, the same question lots of people ask, and in fact, it is the big question in biology. How do you detect species? And there's a lot of arguments about, well, you're not really recognizing species, you're recognizing forms or something else or hybrid. It's true. However, what I have found is that hybridization in the wild does not seem to be very common. Not in race. Why this is, I do not know. I know in the case of philodendron, it's nearly impossible to create a hybrid. You can do it manually, but you cannot easily find them in the wild. Now, if you study the biology of philodendron, you'll realize that these beetles that are pollinating philodendron, they're triggered to know only one scent, and the plant at a moment in time turns on this aroma. The bee almost instantly smells it, and it begins looking for it. When that signal goes off, the bee can't find anything. So the philodendron hybrids in the wild are quite rare. Anthurium perhaps is another matter, because basically a cow can pollinate an anthurium if it visits the right time. However, the surprising thing is that I see very little evidence in wild situations of hybridization. I mean, the species appear to be, each one of them is unique in a so unique way. Now, perhaps that's ignorance, but I simply do not find hybrids in the wild. Now, alternatively, when I was working on plants in Salvadogo, for example, the goldenrod, I was working on this for my PhD. These things seem to hybridize consistently everywhere. And if you try to find all of a species for a certain period of time, for certain distance, it will eventually look like something else. Over time, it'll look like another. So there's introgressive hybridization taking place over the course of many miles. And these species just go from one species to the next. They're not good, solid species like I find with tropical plants. You can spend all your whole day and you find a whole bunch of different things, 50, 60, 100 species, and you don't have any trouble separating one from the other. Now, there is an exception. Anthurium second I think, does probably hybridize. And it may be one of the reasons for its real high rate of success in producing species. Mentioned that it have a lot of species. Many of them look so much alike that you have difficulty determining. And one of them will dry black, and the other will dry yellow, and yet another will dry green. They're not the same species, because the plant dries a particular color based on the temperature. And if you have 3 plants in your press and they're in different colors when they come out, they are not the same. And you can go back to the population and you can realize you find all kinds of characters get separated. So one has to be very careful when you're collecting plants not to throw things together that sort of look alike. I had difficulty working on this when I was doing the Oro Bajo Calima, where there was thousands of plants. And we would find at the end of the day, we still had all the thorpies laid on the floor. We hadn't done them, and we would run out of time. So generally, we would sack them up by locality, and we would take them back to Cali and spend days sorting them out of a hotel floor while we were drawing our plan. I don't know if that answers your question, but it is what I believe to be the case with Anthurium hybridization. Hybrids will happen easily if you pick them, if you have them in your hand, and if they're related, they'll probably cause pollen. So anything within a section, at least within a subkind. For example, Anthurium second we studied a lot of hybridization of many, many species. And we discovered that the Central Americans would almost all hybridize with one another. So would the South Americans. But the South Americans would not hybridize with the Central Americans. And the reason is that they were separated for 18 million years, at least. So that's probably why they evolved into things that wouldn't hybridize.
That makes sense. Thank you.
One more question while we're talking about philodendron and anthurium in particular. I'm going to link this to what we call the Aroid Bubble. I assume you're familiar with that. Dreadful time for the plant market in 2020 to, I don't know, 2023, I guess.
Well, you mean when the crazy during COVID when so many people were buying and selling heroin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you had thoughts on that.
Well, yes, everybody has recent thoughts about the vast expansion of heroin. Unfortunately, I hated to see the prices go up because basically it got to the point where only wealthy people were able to buy plants. For many years, I sold seedlings from my collection, and for about $2.50 a piece. And I made a little money selling these plants. And I eventually built up a little fund that I can send Emily to Aroid Society meetings or something like that, or purchase something that we didn't have any money for in the arena. So I just spent it on those kinds of purposes. But eventually, they, first of all, it won't let me sell plants. Secondly, I wouldn't be able to sell them. So like that price engine, no, not cheap enough to get so that everybody could buy them.
Yeah.
I don't know that I answered your question. To be honest, I sort of forgotten the question about the bubble.
Yeah, it's just like, what does, going from appreciation of plants to like this absolutely manic rush on plants and the effects it had on growers and I don't know, did it have effects on botanists at all?
No, not really. We weren't involved in the plant sales at all. I noticed that in Australia, it was very interesting to see how people were getting plants. Australia has really one of the largest, most voted people working on aeroids. Been this way for a long, long time, but they're very isolated. They do not have the opportunity to get a plant like people in Miami. Miami sees thousands of plants per year. Whereas people in Australia, you know, they have to work really hard and spend a lot of money in order to get a plant. I notice now that they're purchasing these little, they've been raised in sterile conditions, so they're allowed to bring them in Australia. But it can cost $3,000 for a little wand of plants. I mean, that might grow or might not grow. But now they're in Australia, they purchase one of these, and then they have a little lab in their house where they reproduce this. So, they're generating plants, sometimes, $3,000 a pop, but it's quite a business and it's really astonishing. What I saw in Australia was lots and lots of people, because it's arid there, they had these tents in their house and they were marvelous. They had absolutely perfect conditions and they were growing plants in these little tents inside their house. And it's very fancy house with some kind of a growing tent inside. It's like the depth with their little cabin that they're rigging them. I was astonished how much people were spending for these little groups. One guy knew took a whole room and he built another room inside of it that was able to withstand, all this water and everything. So it was astonishing construction.
I agree. I think the Aroid collectors learned a lot from cannabis growers,
Yeah, sure.
like to offer, those kind of conditions in home setups. I do think it's quite astonishing what we can reproduce in our homes. Tom, you mentioned that there's about 500 herbarium species left for you to describe or to formally get them published. I'll take that as a little segue. If you could give one piece of advice to a young botanist today who is just starting their PhD, for instance, someone who looks up to your career and aspires to achieve a fraction of what you have, what would your advice to them be?
Well, starting a career in taxonomy is a challenging process because unfortunately, it takes a very long time to get to recognize species. For me, it's just a matter of, like my memory. When I'm in the field, I mean, I immediately know if something's new because I'd never seen it before, and I'm pretty confident that I've seen all the species that have been published. There are species which are not well known, and that's probably because they're extinct. Many of the species that we're dealing with have been extinct for many years. They were collected once, and they've never been seen again, and in all likelihood, they don't exist anyway. So they're not too important anyway, because you're not going to find them. And if you find another plant, it's very unlikely to be the species you're really. What I have come to realize is that the plants are distributed in such a way that it's very unlikely that a plant that you see in one particular habitat in the Choco is going to conceivably be related to anything you would see in Venezuela, even if you had exactly the same condition. Or, in other words, even within Colombia, you can't go very far until you just get out of the range of that species. It's not necessarily true that it never exists anywhere else, but the fact is you don't see it again. Generally speaking, when we find something, we look around and sometimes you'll find more of it in the habitat that you're in, but very unlikely that if you go a kilometer down the road, you're likely to find it again. It's possible, and even likely if you spend a long enough time, you'll find it again. But these plants are very much hyper-dispersed, and they're probably dispersed by local bird fauna. We know that the birds are they're like plants. They're also restricted to their habitat. Many of them are territorial. They never leave their habitat. I mean, a pair of ant wrens on Barrow, Colorado Island was found in the same bush year after year after year by this investigator. And those ant wrens never left more than about a 50 square feet area, which was their territory. So you can imagine if a mutation happens in one particular part of the forest and the plants are dispersed by birds, it's very unlikely that that bird is going to carry any seed very far because it will simply not be able to enter the habitat of another bird and it takes them away. So that's why you go into a forest and you may see a lot of a plant in one particular region. But you go down the road a while, ways, and you won't find it again. Now, there's a road in Colombia that I call the Carimao Road. It goes from Carimao to Anchicaria, and it goes to some really exciting territory. I've been there maybe 50 times, and every time I go there, I think, I don't know that I've ever been here before. You don't even recognize what you must have seen before. So the species diversity is just so awesome that it's not at all surprising that you can go back to the same area over and over and over again and think, my guys, how did I miss this plant? How could I miss that one? How could I miss this? So that's why there's so much difficulty getting all of these things started. There's just no end of new things coming up, turning out. I don't like to just find a plant and write it in the press, which is often the case with most people. You find a plant, find it's new, they immediately publish, write a long article about one species. Sometimes you have 4 or 5 authors and you only have one plant. But I prefer to do things in revision, and then I'm working on a revision of free-lobe philodendron, for example. They're not related to one another, Jackie. In fact, some of them are clearly not even close to related. But I thought this was a useful revision because I think a lot of people will be able to make use of a revision that deals with all the plants that look like they have free lobe. If the leaves are perceived to be free lobe, I put them into this revision. So some of them are free lobe and they're cuneiform. So we're getting ready to finish. We're almost finishing. You got the manuscript finished. You just got down to the pictures and so forth. And hopefully that'll go into the next.
Yes. Before we wrap it up, any more questions for Tom?
Are you visiting Europe anytime soon? I would really love to meet you. I know that's not a question we plan to ask, but it's the one I've been thinking of.
I went to the conference, the European Aroid conference in Muncie in June. I visited Lyon for 4 days to review the collection at Lyon Botanical Garden. By the way, the Lyon Botanical Gardens, I think, now has the largest collection of aroids in Europe by count. Nancy has a very good collection, but perhaps David is a little bit more, maybe he does more trading, perhaps, or something. In any event, he has developed a very large collection. In fact, recently, I was writing a revision of the Cardiolance from Carchi province, and I ran across this plant, and David was with me on the field trip where we collected that plant. I thought maybe he took it back and wrote it, enjoying it. And sure enough, he had the damn thing because I couldn't find a single collection with an inflorescence. I had 5, 6 collections that I had made of sterile plants because I collect a lot of sterile plants because I find them very valuable. Because if you just wait until the plant is in flower, you may never see it. So if you want to know where things occur, I collect them sterile. In fact, I believe that any anthurium in the world could be identified from just a sterile plant. I think there are enough good characters on anthuriums to allow me to separate every species more than 3,000 feet. It would be a test. I mean, be a dumb, but I believe that there would be something about that plant that is unique.
Interesting. That would be an experiment for sure.
And I do write, I do try to write my keys, yet when where possible, using only vegetative characters because it enables a person to identify plants that are not in flower. And if you can identify the plant with just vegetative characters, then anybody could use it for a plant that is not from that area, but is not yet flowered. Naturally, I try to get flowers. Sometimes I spend a long time bundling things up, and then I get distracted and I leave the whole lot laying on the ground. Once I had to drive many miles to go back to get this because I had a very important plant, and I had it all piled up beside the road, but I had left it in the pile. Once when David Sherbrick and I and Genevieve Ferrer and a couple of English guys were collecting in Ecuador, we collected a big bell launch and I took it down, and for some reason we left it all laying there on the road. 2 weeks later, we went back and found it. It was still in perfect condition. You know, aroids are just so remarkable that they sometimes just lay there for months without rotting. In fact, when I'm collecting plants, I generally don't even pickle the leaves or the stems or the petioles because they won't rot. But the inflorescence will rot very quickly. So you have to put those into alcohol to prevent them from rotting. It's because they have sugar in the flower. Anything with sugar in it will rot. The epidermis and the blades, the epidermis on the blades, prevent the thing from desiccating and also prevents them from rotting easily. I mean, they eventually rot. I often collect plants in a bag. Then I think, oh my gosh, I'm going a long way and I don't want to carry these in a hot car for, 3, 4 more hours. So I'll take the bag out and I'll lay it in the forest along a stream where it stays nice and fresh at like 1,500 meters. And I'm going down the lowlands and I return a week later and I pull off the road at the same spot. I go back and find my bag and bring it back to the car. So it's a way of keeping the plants fresh. In my case, it's, the herbarium specimens are going.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Tom. I know you mentioned that you don't do these interviews often, and I wanted to make sure that we hear a lot about your collecting and in the brief moment that we had with each other to learn about your philosophy, etc. I think we did that, and I want you to know how incredibly grateful I am that you took the time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your good questions and your kind attention. I know I babble a lot, going on and on, so sometimes I don't answer your questions at all. I can talk about era and endlessly for days and days at a time and never mention the same subject twice.
Well, that's passion for you right there, right?
Well, yeah, it is. And, it's yeah. I do love my work. I'm more of a physicist, I guess. but I don't have the mathematical skill for physics.
Well, we have that in common.
Plants were a good alternative people. And I was born and trained at the right moment in history where I was able to make a big difference with very little background of training in plants. I just really lucked onto the aeraceae. And I'm glad that my opportunity on Barrow, Colorado Island led me to be confused by the aroid and led me to pursue looking at those things in other parts of Panama and eventually, throughout, all of the neotropical. I don't do too much work in Africa or Asia. I find the aroids there a lot more boring. In the neotropic sense, so much more species diversity in every respect that I don't know a reason to go anywhere else. It's a fantastic area. And I suspect that we don't even know half of the species yet in California. That's an astonishing statement, but I believe it's true because, as I mentioned, Anthurium alone, I think, has more species than most continents. The genus philodendron, probably has 1,500 species, and many of them are just hidden in plain view. They're just sitting. Anyway, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. I hope you have, or we hope that you have a wonderful 2026. And whether we travel or you travel, who knows? Maybe we'll be able to meet in person. Would be lovely. Are you coming to the IAS Expo in 2026? The plant show in Miami.
Yes, I hope to come down this year. I'm sure do because I haven't been there for 4 or 5 years.
Well, maybe we'll get the chance to meet there, and then I can take you out for dinner and tell you more about plant provenance.
Well, I feel as though I know you because I've heard from you about your history a little bit and your background.
There's still time to deepen a friendship.
Okay. Both of you have a wonderful day.
You too, and have a happy new year.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Give our regards to Pat.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Are you ready to rate some weird plants?
Are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready.
Weird plants, weird plants. Everybody loves weird plants.
It's been so long. Do you even know what weird plants look like?
What a question. I guess they
got
look weird.
weird plants for you. All right. Are you ready for the first one?
I'm
this
ready.
is the first one.
Hit it, Katie.
It's called Dorstenia foetida. You see it?
Yeah. What the heck? Is that a Codex plant?
Codex? What is codex? I don't
Like
know.
the Stephania erecta have that Codex bulb? No? I don't know. What am I looking at? It looks like a miniature tree with speckled leaves, but it's not a tree, obviously. That's a succulent, isn't it? It has some really weird flowers. I think they're flowers that look like the suns my daughter used to draw when she was in kindergarten. That is so weird. And the stem is like thicker at the bottom, kind of bottle shaped because it gets thinner towards the
Yeah.
top. Is that related to the spitting palm?
I have no idea. The stem reminds me of like baobab a bit, the baobab tree.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that reminds me.
Dorstenia foetida.
Foetida, Dorstenia foetida. It's also known as grandelion. If that rings any bells. So it is indeed a succulent plant, and it's native to Eastern Africa and Arabia. They grow in, I think, Central Africa, North Africa, and the tubers are used in Oman cuisine. So that might be interesting for you.
Yeah, see, that was going to be my next question. Like, is it edible? Because, like, that plant looks so interesting. That is actually something that I would love to read up more on and learn all about it.
Like, I don't think they make good houseplants because they grow in full sun in Ethiopia and
That's okay.
Somalia.
I don't
Then
need to have a plant in my house to appreciate it.
okay, but is it weird?
It is very weird, especially with the flower. Is that a flower? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is weird, but like a good way. I'm gonna give that an 8.
That's a good start.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, let's go to the next one. It's
Mhm.
called
What the heck?
Actaea pachypoda. What are we looking at?
Oh my God. That's a plant?
Well, it's part of a plant.
What are we looking at? I'm gonna guess that this is a flower or the inflorescence of some plant, but it's like this structure that is deep pink colored with many arms off of it.
It's
coming
actually the
off of it.
fruit. It's the
It's the
fruit.
fruit, okay. And then at the end of these arms, there are these little oval-shaped, snow white balls, spheres, whatever, with a black dot in them. That is weird. That cannot be edible. Like when something is that brightly colored and that weird, that can't be edible.
Well, you're exactly right. Both the berries and the entire plant are considered poisonous to humans.
Okay.
They contain cardiac toxins,
Oh my
which can
God.
have an immediate sedative effect on human cardiac muscle tissue. So don't eat it.
Where's it from?
It is native to eastern North America, in eastern Canada and the Midwestern and eastern United States.
Oh my goodness.
So is that where you are located? I have no
Yeah,
idea.
basically.
Yeah. So Actaea pachypoda, also called the white baneberry or doll's eyes.
Doll's eyes.
Yeah. You know, the weird thing is, or weird thing, if you look at the plant when it's doesn't have any flowers or is flowering, it looks very mundane, almost like a what is it called, blackberry plant or yeah. Anyway, raspberry also. Yeah, the leaves look very similar. The flowers are just like white, almost like elderflowers. Looks similar, but then as they ripen, the pedicels, that's the fuchsia pink part, they start to swell and turn fuchsia pink. They are not before that when they're just flowering. They are just very plain looking, but then when they are fertilized, they swell and become fuchsia. And then the white parts, those are the fruits, they become white, which gives them this striking appearance.
Well, two things that spring to mind. Number one, it kind of makes sense that this plant is poisonous to the cardiac system because the red parts do remind me of like vein systems, kind of. I don't know if that's related at all. Probably not. I'm making this up. But it also reminds me a lot of a plant that I've seen in Europe, but that is like fuchsia and then goes to green. And the berries are also fuchsia. They're not the berries, they're actually the flowers, I think. But I've also seen it here along one of the salt marshes. I'm gonna have to look up what that plant is. It reminds me of something else, definitely.
They are actually cultivated as ornamental plants, so you can buy them in like garden centers.
Why? If it can kill you. Well,
You don't eat your houseplants. Most of your
Yeah.
houseplants are toxic.
yeah, but this looks like something kids would love to bite into.
Really?
I don't know.
It looks toxic. You told me it looks toxic.
It does.
So, okay. How weird. How weird is this plant?
Well, given that the plant that it grows on looks kind of boring, but the fruit looks exciting and weird. No, let's do it based off the fruit. That is an 8 as well.
Oh, I didn't expect that. Okay. Good.
That looks creepy.
Then I have one final one for you. The name might sound familiar and boring, but the picture is not, I can guarantee you.
Okay.
The plant is called Magnolia macrophylla.
Jesus Christ, that's an abomination. What the hell? Oh my God.
Describe, please.
Okay, so I'm guessing is that an infructescence?
Yeah.
Okay. It is, again, dark fuchsia. The shape is kind of a long ball. I don't know how to describe it. It's like oval. and it looks like there's a bunch of lips on it with protruding. I can't say this on air.
You definitely can. This
It
is not
looks like
Puritan American. It's
it looks like a
European.
bunch of vaginas that are giving birth with like bald baby heads sticking out. Like what? And they're red too, but a different shade of red, like lighter. Oh my good, what the heck is that? Okay, you
What?
said
The sea
Magnolia
infractus.
something.
Yeah, Magnolia macrophylla, the big leaf magnolia. It is native to North America. Again. Yeah,
Guys, if you could see my face now, I like disgusting.
disgusting. You're saying vaginas are disgusting.
Well, like this, yeah. Like one of them is even having twins. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jesus. Continue.
Well, I don't have that much to say about it. I said North America, but actually it's like the south of the USA, which is also North America, I guess. So it's more like around Florida and Texas and what are these states here?
Well, no, I'm not surprised.
Um,
Pro-life
Arkansas.
states.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Jesus, that's why.
Yeah.
That is.
I mean, even
That's a 10.
like the texture of the labia would.
Oh my God. That is horrible, people. If you've ever seen this in real life, please let me know that it doesn't look as horrible as the picture. Please.
You give that a 10? Okay.
That's a
Okay.
10.
Okay. That's good. It's good to end.
Oh my God. Go take that off the screen right now.
Come on, you're such a prude.
It's not about prude. There's really something that is
I
irking
mean,
me about this.
there's even like a clitoris here. You see?
Jesus Christ. Look, you didn't just zoom into that,
It's
did
just
you?
it's just weird that I know that. Yes.
It's weird that you know that. Okay. Well, you got to know what you don't like, right?
I know. Yeah. I think that's it.
That's it.
So it only took us 2 hours because somebody forgot to put on their microphone.
That is not true. We started at 10 past 9 and now it's 10:20. Oh, plus the. Yeah, whatever. Jesus Christ. Podcast
Whatever.
beginners.
Yeah.
My
But we did it.
friends,
We did it, and we will be back next week.
we are going to be back next week. And going forward, our schedule is going to be clockwork.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
You don't tell me what I can and can't.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anyways, go follow us on not Spotify. We're gonna talk about that next week, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
See how the first episodes go on there.
Just know if you are one of the first 50 followers, you are forever in our hearts and have a special place. So do it now. Subscribe everywhere you
Do it.
can. Everywhere you can.
Do it.
Yes. Thank you for listening and see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Pop culture. Spilling the plenty. Pop culture. Spilling the plenty.